truck stop waitresses just go through more. Shit, those high-class girls that work down at Sambo's, you know, people that have money, they just think they're better. But I took to Joe, and he took to me more than anybody I ever known. And I got married the second time. Boy, I wish you could have seen that wedding. I wore the most beautifulest purple dress, and his mama's real pearls. Was married for 7 years, and we had some happy moments till right there at the end, just before he got killed. I went through some hurt there. I just don't trust him. I just don't trust men. They have put me through some pain. That day I went into surgery to have Joey, our little boy. I caught him with this girl. You know, maybe he's just showing himself, but he yelled out that day he didn't care if me or the baby lived or died. You know, through anger, that's what he said. And I needed him there. It was 26 hours before they found him. The doctors didn't even expect us to pull through. He come up to the hospital and grabbed me, you know, and said he is sorry, because they told him what condition I was in. Shoot, when I got home from the hospital, I didn't have no feeling for him. You know, everything is just dead. 3 or 4 months, he run day and night, and we didn't talk. Just a little while before he got killed, he tried to talk to me, and I said no. I said, when I get on my feet and can take care of the kids, then I'll pull out. That morning he left to get killed. You know, that's something I don't have no guilt for, really. You know, only I just felt bad. But that morning he left. He tried to kiss me goodbye at the door, which I hadn't let him kiss me since the day the baby was born. And I said, no. I'm not going to kiss you. I said, just go. And he got out the door. He left his shirt and socks right at the head of the bed, which I didn't even touch. He hadn't been gone 2 hours till I started packing. My clothes, his, everything. Pictures from the service, personal papers, everything that reminded me of him, I packed it. And all day long I had this worry about my brother, not my husband. I had Western music going. I bought fish, but I couldn't fix supper. You know, I was just walking the floors. You know what that was, but when the highway patrol drove up, I started laughing. You know, I thought they'd put him in jail. You know, that's what was on my mind, you know. I started screaming. I went into shock, you know. I woke up neighbors 2 blocks away. He was in the morning. You know, real bad accident. 2 truck accidents, you know, just 8 miles from my front door. And, you know, I could not break down and cry at that funeral. You know, I was in love with him till he hurt me. I never felt that way about nobody else. You know, but I was just shocked to see him with somebody else, you know, because I didn't want to believe it. Because I didn't want to believe it when he got killed. You know, I don't think the death hurt me no worse when I saw him with her. You know, really, things like that, you know, can hurt deep. For months and years, I thought we was a happy couple. And I couldn't tell nobody what happened. And what hurt me more is she's at the funeral. Lots of people to this day has asked me who she was. And she carried on something terrible at the cemetery. We had this one little corsage, you know, this little white carnation laid at the head of the flag. She went over and picked it up, you know, and fell all over that casket. You know, she took that little flower. I just told him, you know, I just says, well, she's his cousin. But the first 2 or 3 years I felt lost to just put my children around me. But that's the only regret moment I ever had in my life. You know, was that morning he left to get killed, you know, just those few bitter words between us. Really, it's the only thing I can think of I've regretted my whole life. You know, it's what I said to him that morning when he was getting ready to leave. It's something I don't feel real guilty for, but if I had it to do over, you know, well, I'd have kissed him goodbye. But shit, God, everybody's got their own share heartache.